5 Heisman candidates update. I know I did this last week, but this is for you, Roger Dodger. Specifically for you. I did this for you because it changed in a week, and it will continue to change. So number 5, and this is a different, thank God, from the Athletics, so it didn't look like I lifted this thing completely, which I hadn't even seen it until we got to the show today. Number 5, Drake Maye at North Carolina. I still think he bears some consideration here for what he's done all year, but losing to Georgia Tech takes you to 5, and I'm not moving you above 5. Just can't do it. So Drake Maye is my 5th candidate, and I don't have a Heisman vote. So these are just what I think right here.
Yeah, he's probably not getting invited to New York as a result of last week. I mean, potentially still could. It just depends on how many guys they want to invite. I mean, you don't have to have 5 there. You can have 3 as they've had in the past. So based on that, I mean, look, he didn't just, lose that game. He had no touchdowns in that game. Yeah. He had 1 pick. He threw for barely over 200 yards. I mean, that was not a good performance in any way, shape, or form. Easily his worst game of the year. That really knocks him down a couple of pegs. And he wasn't at the very top anyways, but he was a guy certainly deserving of some love. Now he's getting it. Now he's getting attention, but it comes on the heels of his worst performance.
And he was trending upward a little bit. Had he had a really good last 3 games, including the ACC title game, you maybe throw him in to the conversation better. I picked him over Hendon Hooker for one reason, is that he's going to have 2 opportunities to put stats on the board where Hendon Hooker now won't.
I think Hendon Hooker's bubble kind of popped when they lost their first game anyways.
Yeah, but in case people ask about that. Number 4, Blake Corum from Michigan. Depending on what happens this weekend, this could go up or down if he plays or not or how he plays. But I certainly think he deserves to be there no matter what. He's been the heart and soul of one of the best teams in the country all year long.
Yeah, you want to see these games like this one with everybody healthy, but by the time you get to the end of the year, that's almost impossible. And Ohio State's been without Smith and Jigba, so yeah, I don't know how to say they're fine with Harrison and others, but Corum, yeah, he is a banger, man. And I don't know what game it was, but I had not really heard much about him early on. He was doing well, but there was a game I watched, and he was everything advertised. He was the heart and soul of that team.
Yeah,
he's scored in every single game they've played. Every single one he has a touchdown.
And that's so hard to do. I don't care what offensive style or what conference you're in or who you're playing.
Well, and he would also, I don't know what would happen this weekend because he's not going to, be adding, looks like, but needs 500 plus yards to get to 1,000. Now that's going to, playing Ohio State need
not to get to 1,000
or to 2,000.
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
but yeah.
Yeah, if you have a big game, and they did last year against Ohio State, then you play in the Big Ten championship game, then you play in maybe 2 games.
Yeah, I guess he could still get there if he's healthy enough and has 3 big games down the stretch. Number 3, and this I will credit Jacob on. I had C.J. Stroud number 1 last week. C.J. Stroud has done nothing to not be number 1 except for this. We all thought he was number 1 or 2 coming into the year, and he's been really good. But he's just not, because they have not had that great win against a great team yet. Now, they've won all their games, but their schedule it's been a little bit like USC's, where the good was at the back end, right? And so Michigan this weekend could certainly change that. The Big Ten championship game could certainly change that. But right now, I'm putting it at number 3 because I think we all put him high up because he's probably going to be the first pick in the NFL draft. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean he's the Heisman Trophy winner, and he's not necessarily the best player on his team. So I'm keeping him at 3. I still think he's a great candidate and a great quarterback. I don't mean any slander to him. I just think that. But I credit Jacob for helping modify my opinion on this.
He's a good quarterback. He's a really good college quarterback, and NFL, we'll see how all that goes because you never truly know. I mean, we've seen surefire guys end up flaming out hardcore, and guys that there's the whole Tom Brady story, but he's been good. It's just like there's just been nothing about him that screams to me like that's the Heisman Trophy winner. Like there's no Heisman moment. There's no huge win. Now, again, maybe that changes this weekend, but basically they've beaten a couple of ranked teams at different times of the year, and now here at the end is when he could really win it to me because so far, again, he's been exceptionally solid, but there's there's nothing that you just screams best player in the country to me. And no, best player in the country, as you said, doesn't mean who's getting drafted first in the NFL. It has no bearing whatsoever on college football, the NFL draft. So that does not add points to his total. But yeah, he could win it here this weekend for sure.
What hurt him though? Wisconsin, not very good this year. Michigan State down. Iowa down. They might end up playing him again. His best game, though, was against Penn State in a battle against 13th ranked at the time, 354 yards, but the one touchdown. Scored through 6 against Michigan. There hasn't been, you're right. And the Notre Dame win earlier was more of a defensive game, 21-10. He has a chance to maybe jump into this bigger than he is now if he can have some sort of a game against Michigan.
Yeah, I think he needs to.
He's 1,500 yards behind what he did last year. Now, he doesn't. He lost some great players.
But he also didn't need – I mean, they didn't need to because, again, their schedule –
it's not their fault. Everybody.
Yeah, it's not their fault that those teams are bad.
No,
but
it's not. It's not their fault. You're right.
But, yeah. Number 2, Max Duggan. And I am putting this out there in the universe because he is the out-of-nowhere guy this year. And he is all these guys – is the best story because he has been through it when it comes to being the starter for this team, and they've won every game this year, and he has willed them to victory several times. He's already had several Heisman moments. He's got really good stats. He doesn't have nearly – I mean, he has good weapons around him, don't get me wrong, but he would trade his for C.J. Stroud's as anybody would in a heartbeat. So he's doing this with a little bit less, and people – constantly in the national media crapping all over his team in the conference.
Oh, it's because those people are just idiots. They're so clueless to college football. But even the ones who play.
But see, that hurts him, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff hurts him. And he deserves to be sitting there in New York as it stands right now.
No, I agree. And, again, let's think about this. At the end of that game against Baylor, Henry Miller was out, Quentin Johnston was out, among others, and he found a way to get – and he made a couple of plays on his own and his legs to make sure they had a chance to win that game.
If he had an SEC patch on his jersey, old P-Head and everybody else is trying to rag on him in the Big 12 would be the first in line kissing his backside and talk about how he walks on water. I mean, this dude's just go on TV and just lie to pander, and it's so obvious that it's kind of gross, but that's what they do. But, yeah, it's as simple as his jersey patch. If he played in a different conference, this wouldn't even be a question. He'd be already accepting an invitation to New York.
Yeah. Number 1, Roger Dodger, Caleb Williams. All right. There he is. He was my 6th last week. He shot it to 1 with – they don't win that game without Caleb Williams last week. He played great. I've been convinced.
You're like the wind blows and the leaves fall off the trees.
That's what the Heisman thing is, though. I mean, you got to ride with it.
I watched a lot of that game. He was great.
He was great. He was fantastic in that game. And we already knew he was great. I had maybe been putting him out because, again, what was USC's big signature win?
Well, dude, who's even watching? I mean, I am because I'm up, but I question how many people are even watching them because they're not even on TV, or when they are, it's late at night and for most of the country. So that's, I think, played into that's been to his detriment. I think at least early on it was, and then last week you finally get the big broadcast and you get the big top 25 showdown and he can show what he can do, and people are all of a sudden going, oh, wait a second, they've only got 1 loss. Oh, wow, look at his numbers. Oh, and then all the pieces come together. I mean, yeah, he's definitely right there at the top, if not, leading the mix right now. My only thing earlier was just, put Caleb Williams up there, but don't dismiss Max Duggan as though he's just some lucky kid on a lucky team and all that. I think that's garbage, but I'm all for Caleb Williams getting a ton of love.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we go. There's my list.
Yeah,
Roger